With 9 months' notice, a baby will rarely arrive as a surprise. But for many carers, and especially for grandparents, this arrival represents much more than just a surprise. The unexpected responsibility brings with it nothing less than a seismic shift in lifestyle. Our lives had been organised, generally predictable and happily preoccupied with the pursuit of semi-retirement. This sudden addition swept away the concept of retirement as we knew it and gave a renewed sense of purpose to more than one life. There now was a bright light that brought more joy and happiness than could ever be absorbed in one lifetime. Within the first few days after family and community services had removed my daughter's baby girl from the hospital, and at the height of our family's distress, I said to the Family and Community Services caseworker, "It is my aim to see mother and baby reunited." Looking back, of course, I was wrong. Some 4 years ago, my wife and I began what was to us a tense courtroom drama. I had done the unthinkable. I represented myself and my wife. When she got to the witness stand, my wife, who is my daughter's stepmother, represented herself so well that she even exchanged a little humour with the magistrate. I was opposed by 4 solicitors, but of the 4 it would be the Family and Community Services solicitor who held centre stage. Surprisingly, he opposed my custody application on the basis of my age. The court had been sitting for about 2 hours. When a legal aid solicitor entered, she approached me and whispered that she was there to represent me. After whispering to the solicitor that she would not be required, I remembered the saying, "The person who represents themselves has a fool for a client." It was my daughter's turn to give evidence, and it turned out to be one of my proudest moments. In an unrehearsed, impassioned speech, my daughter took it upon herself to address the court in my support. The quality of her presentation took everybody by surprise. They listened, absorbed by the eloquence of her words. Here was a girl who, after being expelled from school at the age of 12, had been drawn into the drug scene. Despite this, she could rise like the phoenix from a mind-destroying lifestyle and address a group of learned men and women with a skill that commanded their undivided attention. Nobody interrupted. My daughter had concluded by looking across at me and saying, "This had to be said, and I have waited a long time to say it." I would forever carry an overwhelming sense of pride for her in my heart. In a surge of positive anticipation, my wife had, in the weeks leading up to the hearing, purchased the usual baby necessities, such as a cot, pram, baby car seat, nappies, bottles, formula and clothing. I, on the other hand, was too fearful of a court loss and had preferred to do nothing, just in case it brought disappointment. Some 10 days later, the verdict was handed down. Not only were we granted custody, but better still, we were granted parental responsibility for 18 years. My wife and I were surprised when access visits by my daughter were restricted to just 4 hours each month. Of course, my instinct urged me to invite my daughter home for dinner, perhaps staying a night to ease the pain of the loss of a child to our care. There is little that can compare with the loss of a child. Where the child is lost in a custody battle, it is not surprising that any form of contact, as essential as it may be, will often place a new type of pressure on already strained family relationships. We were at last relative carers with a mission, and what a responsibility. Our little girl had entered the world, only to find herself under the care of grandparents with very limited resources. My wife and I had resolved that our little girl should not be disadvantaged simply because she had come under our care. Plan 1 was to ensure that our little girl was surrounded by a network of supportive friends. Clearly, we needed help, and the quality of all those people we were proud to call our friends now began to form an essential part of that network. We were still the only grandparent carers in all of our contacts. In order to set a pattern for regular early learning exercises, our planning included playgroup, music group, kindy gym, swimming, and preschool. Then there was the need to prepare for some form of financial planning to reduce the shock of school expenses. This included making weekly bank installments and increasing my existing casual work as a tutor. My wife had never had children and now has parental responsibility for my granddaughter, and so it was that she threw herself into her new responsibilities with an enthusiasm that completely swept aside all other interests. Our little girl is now 4, and together they form a formidable force on shopping forays and are almost inseparable. My wife Barbie cried when our little girl entered preschool. Many years had passed since I last took my children to any form of preschool. Now the whole scene had changed. Preschool was our first venture into the world of busy parents and their children. Yet, as grandparents, it seemed that we were viewed somehow as being temporary. The adults there were curious and friendly, but long-term friendships were elusive. It was as if we were the new kids on the block. Instead, we felt like a new family moving into a street as rental tenants, where everyone else owned or were buying their own home. But even without any sense of permanence, there were those who were wonderful and who were drawn to my granddaughter's outward personality. As a result, little Miss Congeniality did get to go to her share of birthday parties. It seemed to us that as time passed, so also did the number of unanswered questions. The more time that passed, we realised just how little we knew. With collapsing extended family relationships, grandparents can feel isolated and to a large degree powerless. We were put in touch with an organisation whose purpose was to reduce the worries of people like us. Connecting Carers New South Wales has enabled us to become part of a network of carers, particularly those living nearby and in surrounding suburbs. Within a few days of being connected, we found ourselves totally absorbed into an organised network of people like ourselves. Above all, we had the overriding security of knowing that we had a 24-hour support line. The regular coffee and chats not only provided the opportunity for an exchange of ideas, but also act as a sounding board to identify and provide for the needs of those carers who might otherwise be reluctant to speak about any stress or difficulties that they may be experiencing. Now we are a family of 4, with new friendships in a connected grandparent community.